Yeah. Hey. Hey. All right. Hey. Yeah, I mean.
So we about to take off.
Hey. Please do remain calm. About to run against spitting with a little bit of soul, no times.
Welcome to the Please Remain Calm podcast. I'm Ben Gonzalez.
And I am Daniel Gonzalez. And we are here in our new studio.
Oh, yeah.
The
fancy new
colors. We're going with green this time. Right off the bat, all of the opinions that are expressed here on the Please Remain Calm podcast are our own. They do not reflect the opinions of the Los Angeles City Fire Department or the Los Angeles County Department of Health Services.
No, sir.
Our guest today is Dr. Bob Kilroy. Say hi, Doc.
Good morning.
Okay. Very interesting call, to say the least. Before we get into it, I'll just set the table here for me as the paramedic going into that day. I think as paramedics and firefighters, we all create this this image of a firefighter, just like every little kid does, like they're heroes and they go and do these, they run into fires, and they rescue cats from tops of trees and they do all these crazy things, right? And I really always looked up to them as these kind of superhero figures when I was a kid. And then, you get older and these shows like Rescue 911 came out, right?
Oh, yeah.
And they show every incident that they show is the craziest incident,
Oh, yeah.
Spitting snakes and, a rattlesnake bite in the hillside and stuff like that.
And they're all reenactments, so they're dramatizations.
Super dramatized,
exactly,
and the time they're edited perfectly. And you really get this sense of holy smokes, man, these guys are they're just doing the craziest shit all the time,
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll get television shows the 911s right now and Rescue Me and stuff like that,
they
right?
really ramped it up. Yeah.
And
there's 5 shows now, right? There's Chicago Fire.
Dude.
There's the Ladder 19.
Yeah, Station 19.
Station 19. That's right.
But you watch all those shows, and those are dramas. They're primetime dramas, so they have to have drama every episode, right? Yeah. So every episode they're jumping out of a building or they're rescuing a baby from the top floor or whatever.
Yeah,
it's something crazy.
Holding someone by the hand.
All right. Being a firefighter paramedic is not like that, right? For the most part, you're running calls all day and you're busy and you are working and you do have people with chest pain, but eventually these things become routine, right? I mean, I could go on 6-7 chest pains in a day and it's nothing. My heart rate won't even get up, right? It might be a big deal to that person or to a bystander watching, this person have pain, and we start an IV and we push medication and we give them some nitro and they feel better. And it's this amazing thing that people see happen. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't even get our heart rate up. It's a standard everyday thing, or blood sugar is another example. Mm-hmm. The person's on the floor, unconscious, sweaty, pale, they can't talk and everything. Mm-hmm. It's like, what is going on? And then we show up, give them a little sugar, and they're perfectly fine again, right?
And lifeguarding.
Lifeguarding, exactly the same.
The first couple of rescues.
Pull that mic right up to your mouth, right there.
The first couple of rescues that you make, your heart is pumping is just as great as that person you're rescuing.
Exactly.
After a few years, you bring them in, and they're like, "Oh my God, thank you." And this is what I do.
And it's no big deal.
Excuse me, I got to go back in the tower and look to see if somebody else is going.
And so Bob, Dr. Kilroy here, Bob, we'll call you Bob, is a chiropractor, but he's also, you were, or are you still a lifeguard? Still am a lifeguard, LA County lifeguard, yeah. So he actually knew the guys that rescued him that day.
Amazing.
For the most part, our days are not too crazy, man. Every once in a while, you'll get a fire and it'll be ripping and it's sweet. You got a cool incident, right? And then a few 5, 6, 10 shifts might pass by before you have another crazy, significant incident. You might have a handful in a year, right? The episode today is about one of those incidents.
Okay?
Oh, yeah. I think I could talk to... every firefighter I meet from now to the end of my career, and I probably won't find somebody who ran a call like this call that we had that day. Do you remember the date?
It was just a week ago or 2 weeks ago. It was towards the end of July, the 23rd or the 27th.
I might even have the date on the picture here. Oh, I don't, damn it. Anyway, so what happened this day was Bob got essentially struck by lightning.
Let's say it again.
Bob Kilroy, Dr. Bob Kilroy, sitting right here with us right now, essentially got struck by lightning. Now, it wasn't a direct hit. It's not like you were holding an umbrella over here or flying a kite with a key on it or anything, right?
I was like the guy in the bathtub and somebody threw in a 1,000,000-watt hairdryer.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay. That is a really good analogy, right?
Set the table a little more here, though, because this is actually another Venice Beach Fire Department story.
Okay. I'm going to set the table for our day and how it started off for us, and then we'll get into your story, and we'll go with you from all the way to the beginning. Venice Beach, man, it's a crazy place to work. There's craziness all over the place. There's drugs. There's homeless. There's, you name it, we got it. Okay. It's one of the tourist capitals of the West Coast, if not the entire country. And it's a crazy vibe. There's a lot of art. There's a lot of music. There's a lot of free thinking people. A lot of forward thinking people. It's just like a crazy, almost carnival-like environment sometimes. This day, it was kind of like mellow. It seemed a little bit more mellow to us. It was overcast, a little bit overcast, but I wouldn't say stormy or anything like that. And to be honest, I don't even remember there being like rain or anything. Maybe just a light drizzle of rain as it was coming down. And ran a couple calls in the day, and it was one of those boring days. Chill day where nothing's happened. And trust me, I don't want to run calls.
This is a weekend? Do you remember?
I think it was a weekend.
Sunday.
Yeah, it was a Sunday. But if we don't get calls, man, that's a good thing. Nobody's hurt. Nobody needs the paramedics.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. And if on top of that, I can kick back for a Sunday and watch some football.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Exactly.
Right? So that's kind of the day we were having. And I remember it like it was yesterday, man. Sitting in a TV chair. We had just gotten back from a run. Me and my partner, Savon Gerard, who we'll have to have on the podcast at some point just to talk about his life. But amazing paramedic, just great guy. And he was in the kitchen. I was in the TV chair. I had just sat down in the TV chair. And as soon as I sat down, man, it's hard to even describe. The way I describe it to people is our fire station is right next to the old Venice City Hall and police station, which is beyond Baroque now. But it's an old, super old building, right? I thought, my first thought, the whole room shook. First of all, boom! You heard this massive, massive boom. And the entire room shook, dude. And when I say shook, I mean the curtains were shaking, the windows were rattling. And my first thought was a bomb went off next door.
Really?
That was my first thought. A bomb. And I'm not even exaggerating.
I don't remember this part of the story.
I'm not exaggerating or nothing, dude. I jumped up out of the seat, was like, I yelled, what the fuck was that? And Savon yelled, almost, it was like an echo. What the fuck was that? And my thought was, somebody set off a bomb next door. And there might've been something in the news. There might've been something in the news going on that made my brain go to that. But 100%, I thought the building next door either collapsed.
Somebody blew up beyond Baroque.
or had exploded.
Who has a vendetta against poetry and literature?
Tell me about
when my brother's saying it's beyond Baroque now, he wasn't talking about the architecture of the city hall. He means it's a literary foundation in Venice. And then there's Spark next to it, the Social Public Art Resource Center.
Yeah.
And, and that's Venice stuff, dude. You know, people do poetry and paint walls. You know?
But just to really give you the sense of when I'm talking about a boom, man, I mean, you hear lightning, you hear thunder all the time. Yeah. You know, this was next level. It was like nothing I had ever heard before.
And you were 2 miles away.
And we were 2 miles away from the beach. Our station is 2 miles away from the beach. Yeah.
So that was the lightning strike or the thunderclap or what? Like, I don't know how that works exactly.
I mean, what the lightning, neither am I. I'm not a scientist, but the way I understand it, the lightning strikes, it separates the air molecules slam back together. That's how you get the thunder,
Sonic
right?
boom, basically. So
essentially, essentially, I guess if it's just that close, it happens to be that loud. But it was freaking loud, dude. Still to this day, the loudest
really
boom thing I ever heard, dude, ever in my life. Okay. And we jump up, we look out the window, and of course the building's not collapsed or nothing. And I'm like, we both look at each other like, what was that fucking lightning? Was that? And we all just kind of like,
raining at all
what the hell?
at that point?
What's that?
Is it raining
man.
at that point?
If anything, it was just a tiny drizzle. Okay. And then a couple minutes passed by, and then we got rained down, and we got the call. It came out as an electrocution at the beach, and I still didn't put two and two together, right? Because a couple minutes had passed, and I just didn't put it together. We got this call, electrocution at the beach. Okay, just like I said, your days pretty much are humdrum. Yep. No big deal. You know what I mean?
And even electrocutions.
Yeah, people get electrocuted.
It happens,
You're trying to screw this thing in and
working on their house.
And people call 911 for the silliest thing. So I still didn't put two and two together till we were driving. And then as you're going, and Metro, our dispatch is talking to call takers, talking to people that are calling in and stuff like that. They'll update our MDC with messages. And then it popped up, lightning strike at the beach. And we both looked at each other and we went, are we about to treat a lightning strike patient, first of all, right? Because
that's a never happens call.
What?
And of interest, when I was at UCLA, I got to know the staff there shortly thereafter.
Sure.
At one point, they said, "By the way, Doc, we've never had anybody struck by lightning before either."
Yeah.
So you can imagine two paramedics who we know a lot, and we can do the stuff that we do all the time super well, and we work well together. And Savan is 10 times smarter than me. And we both looked at each other like, we could tell we were both rolling through our mental Rolodex of what the hell we're going to do. Yeah. Because as I'm driving and I hear lightning strike or an electrocution, I'm thinking a number of things. First of all, I'm thinking, do we have an issue with being in the water or whatever, right? Was he in the water? Did he get zapped in the water? Does he drown? Do we have drowning issues? Do we have water that seeped into his lungs? Because you get that salt water in your lungs, I might have to, put a CPAP on you to expand those lungs again. Burns, if you're hit by lightning, you're going to have an entry point and an exit point, and everything in between those 2 points is going to be affected by that current electricity.
That's a good Rolodex you're going through.
And so I'm driving. People are not pulling over, and you're opposing traffic, and I'm trying to think, how am I going to treat this guy that got struck by lightning, right?
Mm-hmm. And you're at Venice Beach on Sunday, literally the most crowded place in LA.
All that crazy stuff that I said just
everywhere.
A minute ago, a Sunday afternoon is the craziest that it gets in Venice, right? So then we, the way the beach is laid out, there's a parking lot. If you go straight up Venice Boulevard, there's an entrance to the parking lot there, and then the parking lot runs all the way down to where you were. So the call was at an address way over here on the beach, but if you go there, you wouldn't be able to access where he was.
Right.
You would just know that working where we work. So we get there, we get to the parking lot, and make the left and go all the way down. And, you can see the crowd of people out there. People are waving. You can see the lifeguards out there. Because typically what happens when somebody is injured in the water or on the sand, that's LA County Fire Department area, right? Mm-hmm. And so the lifeguards will get the patient. If it's a rescue, they'll bring him in. They'll work on him, do CPR as they're bringing him on a backboard over to a lifeguard truck. And then the lifeguards bring the truck over to the boardwalk to where we're waiting with our rescue and all of our equipment and stuff like that.
Right.
And typically when we pull up and we have a general idea like what lifeguard tower it's at or something like that, we'll pull up on the boardwalk or wherever we can be on the asphalt or whatever. And you can see the incident happening off in the sand, right? You see the lifeguards' lights and everything. You see the people and shit like that. And we don't typically take our stuff and go out there, right? It's a lot easier if they bring the patient to us. So as we're driving down the parking lot, I could see the incident going on over there. Okay, fine. We pull up and stop. And Sunday afternoon, summertime at the beach, okay, you can imagine the whole beach is full of people.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's insane.
Night of the Living Dead. It was an entire beach of people walking at us. I think I got zapped. I think 50 people maybe, man.
50 people that were telling you that they're patients, basically.
Okay.
And thinking that you're there for them.
Maybe
To some extent.
So we're basically the first paramedic rescue that showed up. The lifeguards were already there. There was a few lifeguard trucks there. But we had gotten updated that there was a cardiac arrest. Our incident got updated to the cardiac arrest, which wound up being Bob, right?
So you gotta be like, hey, get the fuck out of the way.
That's essentially what we did, man. We parted that sea of people.
They're like, asshole, I was electrocuted.
Because also at the same time, the lifeguards had already been, and we'll get into it right now, but the lifeguards had already been working Bob up for 10 minutes at that point.
Jeez.
You know? And they had already packaged him up onto the truck and were already coming towards us. So we know we have a cardiac arrest. We know the lifeguards are coming towards us. Typical MCI, right? Like multi-casualty incident stuff that you work with at the MAC.
Yeah.
We would run that completely differently, right? If we were first on scene, we would be communications.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you don't know that there's all these patients. And another funny thing too is like, this isn't like the first time that's happened, like where you've come on scene and there's just like a gang of people coming up to you.
And initially we got it by ourselves.
Right.
Yeah. So
yeah, because Metro doesn't know either. They think it's just him.
So I'm taking that into account too. Yes. Yeah. We got it by ourselves for this one guy that was electrocuted. That's what we got it, right? And then it evolved into he's in cardiac arrest. Hey, it was a lightning strike. So then they started adding companies, but it took us 10 minutes to get there. They're another 5-6 minutes behind, right? So I'm taking that into account too, because now we're pulling up and listen, I've been a medic for 18 years with the department. I've been to enough MCIs to know that if you don't set it up properly, if you don't start communications,
that's a whole other episode, dude.
And just make contact and figure out hospitals and patients and all that stuff with your MAC coordinator, which is what Ben does, right? The entire incident can go completely haywire and south real quick. So for me, as a medic pulling up and seeing this crowd of people, technically I should have said, okay, I'm communications. Get on the phone, call Ben, my partner, get out and start triaging everybody, right?
But you're also the first medic on scene to an arrest.
Correct.
That's your main priority.
And so that's where we both looked at each other and said, nah, man, we're taking the full arrest. Everyone else can wait, right?
That was a good choice.
You're welcome. So let's go back to your day, man. That's how my day started and how I first met you.
Scratch.
How did this start for you?
I had just got home from a vacation, and my daughters were staying with me down at the beach, and I took my youngest one downward. So let's work on surfing. So it was a little bit overcast. It was a little bit chilly. She put on her full suit. I put on my full suit. And we were out there and we were, here comes the wave and get up on your knees and I'm going to push you. And she pearls and she falls off. And finally I push her off on this wave and I look at her, I go, oh my God, she's going to stand. And next thing I remember, I was in the hospital.
Holy
I opened my eyes and I go through assessment. I'm in the hospital. I'm in full restraints. I got a breathing tube in me.
Oh, shit.
First thought was, Bobby, what the hell did you do this time?
Yeah.
Second thought was, I really hope my insurance covers this.
And you're a doctor.
And at that point, my sister, who had flown in, because I got to the hospital and not only had I been electrocuted, but because I collapsed in the water, I'd aspirated water.
Yeah.
Right.
So they put me, basically, they put me into a coma and they put me on a respirator for 24 hours to clean out my lungs.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I didn't come to till the next day.
Hey, hang on one second, Bob. Kayla, can we turn the air on and just see if it's too loud for us?
When you came to, was it they had brought you out of it?
Evidently, they had backed me out of the coma, yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
And my sister was there, and she explained what had happened, and
Yeah.
we went on from there. But yeah, that was how it went down for me.
Wow. So literally just like that.
Just like that.
Hey, boom, and
Right.
you're
And
there.
during a proud father moment.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And as an adult proud father moment, you don't even know how many of those you get anymore. And then you're like, oh, look at this.
Haven't been able to get her to go
Wow.
surfing yet.
Way
So-
to go, God.
So
Man.
let me try to fill in some of the blanks there.
Yes, thank you, because that's a good 24 hours of my life. Just
There are blanks, sir.
So your daughter must have been out of the water then when the lightning hit.
She was, as she described it, she was on top of the board. And she said, Dad, there was just this explosion. And she said, and the next thing you know, I opened my eyes and I realized I was underwater. I had no idea which way was up.
Oh, crap.
And I came up and I looked around and I saw you and you were floating. And I used to do this stuff with my kids, where
Yeah.
I would, they'd come into a room and I'd be lying on the
Screwing
floor.
around with them.
Okay, guys, I'm on the floor. I'm non-responsive, but I'm breathing. What do you do?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not breathing.
okay,
I'm
like
not
drills.
responsive. What are you going to do? And
Yeah.
eventually it got to the point where they're going like, well, I'm going through your pockets for loose
Yeah.
change.
Right,
and
right,
yeah.
I'm
right.
grabbing the keys to the Mercedes. So she just said, I just saw you. I went over to you. You were not responsive. I slapped you. I was really pissed that you didn't respond. So
Yeah.
I slapped you again.
Oh man.
And at that point, she just said, the only thing I knew to do was to start dragging you in and screaming bloody murder. And she did. And between the guards and some people on the beach, they dragged me up the beach.
Let's play
Yeah.
clip 1. Just to give you a sense. And I cropped it down. It's just a short clip here of so
Yeah.
you can see the scenario and what was going on here. Okay, so they would have dragged him up onto the sand, okay? And you can see that they cut his wetsuit down all the
A
way
little
to
further
expose
than
his
I would have
chest.
preferred.
Yeah, we were joking about that because I had to crop the video because Doc's little doctor was hanging out in the video. So, sorry, I
This
didn't mean
is
little.
safe when you watch this on YouTube. We're not going to get flagged for inappropriate content. Another thing significant, though, is your daughter's dragging you out of the water, screaming bloody murder. But this is a significant event for the entire beach.
Oh, yeah.
So the whole beach, you know what I mean? Those lifeguards had to zero in and notice you.
Yeah,
out of
exactly.
everybody freaking
Amidst
out.
all the
lifeguards themselves
pandemonium.
freaking out.
Exactly.
And-
Because these guys down the street are thinking a bomb just went off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So everybody's kind of in that
And then
state.
you also have to keep in mind too that that the water table and the moisture that's in the sand that goes all the way around.
Yeah.
So like I don't know, man. I would imagine, and obviously again, I'm not a scientist, but I would imagine that a wet sand would conduct a lot further than it would.
Oh yeah,
to just
yeah,
hit on
yeah.
the
That's
ground
what I'm saying.
somewhere.
So you don't know to what effect people were hit. other
Exactly.
people, yeah.
Exactly. But when we got there, your daughter was awake. She was obviously distraught. But by that time, they had already gotten your heart rate back. Yeah. And so in talking to her, and she kind of described what you described now, that you were both surfing and that you were a little bit closer to the shore. It hit. She turned, couldn't find you, and saw you floating. Another thing we thought was that, man, what a good thing that you had a wetsuit on.
The wetsuit served two purposes. Number one, it definitely attenuated
Yeah.
a lot of that electricity.
Sure. Yeah.
And two, it kept me afloat.
The buoyancy.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a young man there was one young man that died at this incident. And really tragic. He was actually playing volleyball with a group of friends and had just run into the water to wash off the sand when the lightning hit.
Oh yeah, that's
And
right.
so his friends, and just like you said, it being such a chaotic scene, his friends didn't even realize that he was missing, that he wasn't there with them
Right.
anymore until 20 minutes later or so, after we were already gone with you.
Yeah.
And then that's when they went and searched for him, and they wound up finding him 20 minutes after that,
Yeah, he
like on the
already
other side of the
drowned.
on
Yeah.
the other side of the pier. But
And he actually
But,
had an entrance wound.
entrance, yes,
but again, he's playing volleyball. He's just wearing shorts.
he's
or
just wearing
something.
shorts and ran, and that was kind of the
Exactly.
point I was going to bring up.
Right. Oh, yeah.
He runs into the water just wearing shorts, it takes the same jolt as you do, and just, and just comparing those two situations, the bodysuit. I mean, that's really,
I wrote Body Glove a thank you letter.
yeah, man.
And then they saw the video and they said, that wetsuit's not going to do you much good anymore.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
they sent me a new one.
Oh, did they really?
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. of
Oh,
them.
that's awesome.
That
Yeah.
was very.
Body Glove,
Give-
the old school wetsuit company, still delivering
Yep.
in the 21st century.
Why don't you put, Kayla, can you put, I think it was 3, the second video that I sent you? So at this point, that's after 8 minutes
8 minutes.
of doing CPR.
no,
And this full video is on YouTube.
The
You can check it out.
ROSC.
But 8 minutes of doing CPR, and keep in mind that the lifeguards, they're not paramedics, man. They don't have all of the medicine and equipment that we have on the rescue. They do have an AED that they had hooked up, and there did happen to be, it was an ER physician?
Yeah, there was an ER cardiologist there.
ER cardiologist.
Was at the head.
Wow.
Yeah, and an interesting thing, because if you watch the video, at one point he goes, "Guys, it's been 10 minutes. If something doesn't happen soon, it's game over."
Yes.
And
I was going to ask
if
you how
I
that
saw
felt.
that, and I went, like, "Fuck it is." Pardon my language.
Yeah.
One thing is, we do as lifeguards, we do CPR until somebody comes up and relieves us and says, "Don't," or until you're physically exhausted
Yeah.
and you can't go.
And
Sure.
they would have kept doing it.
It was kind of interesting because, CPR, even with the valve mask, the O2 saturation is not that great.
Sure, yeah.
And to go 10, 12 minutes of CPR with that low O2, they were, but their biggest question if I was to live was going to be, what would my mentation going to be?
Sure,
What kind
yeah.
Oh,
of,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
what kind of Dane
effects?
Bramage was I going to come out of this with?
Yeah, are you
Yeah.
kidding?
And I'd know more than I had to begin with.
Yeah.
Kayla, if you can, put up the video that has the yellow truck, that one. And then we'll go to that other photo. So this is them. This is essentially how they took Bob over to us at the rescue. I just wanted to show that. They bring the truck all the way over to the patient. They load the patient up into the back on a backboard, and then they drive up to the boardwalk or the parking lot.
That's the
or
old
wherever.
lifeguard truck, too.
That is the old one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And then go ahead and put that other photo up. So this is about a month after the incident. And I still hadn't seen Bob since then. And we got contacted at the fire station that they were going to do a press conference because it was such a unique incident. Another thing that should be said, man, is that this happened. And then you can see in the video, it was pretty much a clear day after that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? This cloud, it's like it just rolled in, did its one little thing, and beat feet.
Vamoose.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. But we
Just wanted to see your daughter surf. That was it. You see her for a split second, and then boom. Yeah, chaos.
But we were able to meet Bob this day, and my partner was off that day, so he wasn't able to be there. But it was the first time I was able to meet Bob, and I got to tell you, man, as a paramedic, every once in a while you'll get people that come back to the station and say thanks, or they'll send you a little card or something like that, and it feels really great. To have an incident like this, and then I had seen the video pretty much right after it had been posted. To see all that, to see everything that happened before, and then when I got you in the back of the ambulance, you had a heartbeat, you had a viable rhythm, and obviously that's something we're concerned about. Your heart, it's all electrical impulses, and essentially when we shock somebody, we're basically doing what that lightning bolt did, right? It's basically just short circuiting everything and turning everything off, in the hopes, when we shock somebody, at least we shock it to shut everything off, in the hopes that SA node, that one little spot that gets everything going with the right rhythm, picks up and starts off again, right? And so another thing in that Rolodex as we're going down was your heart, obviously. And what's your EKG going to look like? do we go to a trauma center? Do we go to a burn center? Do we go to a STEMI center? Okay, let's go to UCLA. It's all those things. All those things are running through your head as you go.
That was a question. How you chose that?
Then you get to the back of the ambulance, and you had a heart rate, and you were breathing, but it was almost like everything in your body was flexing. So you were kind of clenching, and you were going like that, beet red, veins bulging, and forcefully exhaling. And then you would go like that. Okay. You were doing that over and over again.
That was the drowning, though.
To me,
agonal breathing,
and I didn't know if it was still your electrical system just kind of short circuiting things flexing. Sometimes you'll get posturing and stuff like that when you bonk your head real bad and stuff like that. So that's what it kind of seemed like. It seemed like some sort of your body was doing some sort of posturing. It wasn't a seizure. It was just like a stiffening that you were doing like that, right? But then you would take these big like that, right? So as far as I'm concerned, you're altered. And if you're doing this, you're not breathing properly, right? So only time in my career that I've ever done this, and it worked beautifully. I sat there with the tube and the laryngoscope, and I waited. And you were clenched down, exhaling. And when you went, I stuck the blade in, and you tried to bite down, and the blade kind of caught it, and I slid the tube right down and caught your cords just as you were taking that inhalation. I mean, it could not have gone any better, man.
Wow. This is en route?
This is en route in the back of the ambulance. So you can imagine the gurney. So when I do an intubation in the back of the ambulance en route, the gurney's right here, the jump seat's here, but I'll squat down and sit on the floor, between the jump seat and the head of the patient and sit. So that's where I was. Your head was like right here. I'm trying to figure out, because you try to force somebody's mouth open. You try to put an OP airway in there and stuff like that, and try to force it open so you get the blade in there and get the tongue out of the way and get the tube in. But when you're clenching, you can't do that. And you don't want to try to wiggle a blade in and break people's teeth and stuff like that, right? So it was the only way that I could see to get a tube in and get you a secure airway.
Wow.
And I didn't know if it was going to work, man. I'd never done it before. It was honestly
ballsy,
just
dude.
like, it was honestly
I don't
just
know
like,
about that one, yeah.
I can see his cords because I had your head tilted. You were doing that. And then when you went,
because the clenching puts you in intubation position.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And then you go, and it was like seeing down a tunnel. I could see your windpipe from there. So I was like, dude, I'm going to try to get this tube, and because the other thought was to stick an OP in there. At least that way, when you clench, you'd be biting down on the OP, which is oropharyngeal airway. It's a plastic piece that goes, and at least your airway would be open. But no, it went right in. I was like, awesome, man. And then you already had your heart beating. My partner got the IV. We were flowing some fluid into you, and your daughter was in the rig with us, driving. So we're telling her up front, hey, he's doing great. We got a tube in. He's breathing fine. His oxygen saturation is great. And she's crying. And then we get to UCLA. And anytime you have a trauma like that, the entire trauma team is there waiting for you. Mm-hmm. And I guess because they had heard, we told them en route that it was a lightning strike. It seemed like the whole damn hospital was there.
Oh, are you kidding? I'm sure, dude.
I mean, the back doors didn't even open. They were all waiting in the ambulance bay, and we pulled you out. And in all honesty, you didn't look like much when we pulled you out. You know what I mean? You look like just a standard. I don't know if they were expecting what we were expecting. Burn injuries and stuff like that, but. You looked great when we wheeled you into the hospital.
There was no path of a lightning bolt.
Nothing cool like that. Yeah. You don't have anything cool like that, right? No superhero.
The yellow scar?
Somewhere on there.
Oh, nice. You got a
Very
tat.
Nice.
All right.
But no super.
I'll get a tat someday when I've got a really good reason.
Yeah. There you go.
That was the good reason.
There you go. Right.
Yeah, so we got you to the hospital, and then just like every other call, that's it.
Wow.
Right? And then a month later, we get the phone call to do the press conference.
That
and
was
I get
special.
to
That was
meet Bob.
special.
It really was, man. Yeah, it really was. So now you wake up in the hospital. Who tells you that you got struck by lightning?
So my sister's there. She explains to me that, you got struck by lightning. And at this point, I don't have very good motor coordination at this point at all. So, and I don't think they have pulled the airway out yet.
Oh, okay.
So I just made a motion for a pencil, and I scribbled what at best I could think was, Emily. Emily's fine.
Yeah.
Me die? No, you're not going to die. And at that point, I, not to sound cavalier, but I was like, okay, the important stuff's taken care of.
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
The rest is just me toughing this out and coming back.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah, we've had a few guests like that where they describe the waking up moment and trying to figure out, the first thing you do is try to figure out where you are, what the hell happened to you. Yeah, so like you describing that, you're waking up with a tube.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
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 What was recovery like? Like, did it affect? How did it affect your body?
Well, it was probably a good 2 days before I could get up and start to try to walk around the ward. And once I got up and around, able to do that, they were getting irritated because I was getting up and walking around too much.
Yeah.
And I went and had an EKG done, not EKG, EMG.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
So in an EMG, they basically stick little needles in you, and
pull
they
this
measure.
pull this mic right in front of your.
Oh, and
mouth there.
they put these little needles in where the origin of a nerve is, and then the most distal point in the nerve, and they measure to see how fast or how well things are transmitting from the cord down to the different points.
Oh, wow.
And when I had that done, the neurologist pulled up the EMG and said, "My God, if I didn't know better, I'd swear you had MS."
Oh, wow.
She goes,
Really?
"You don't have any single," and this may be too technical, but she says, "You don't have any single nerve root or peripheral nerve that is, injured. It's just a spot here and a spot there and a spot here. And a spot
Oh, wow.
there. It's just like, it's random." So I think, okay, so we talked about the wetsuit.
Sure.
Yeah.
The only part, people say, well, what do what residuals do you have?
Yeah.
The only part of my body that was sticking out of the wetsuit that was in the water was about from the ankles down.
Yeah.
And the bottoms of my feet are still numb,
Wow.
slightly numb.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, not to get too philosophical on this, but it's like it's good to walk away from something like that with something that is a daily reminder.
Sure.
Yes.
Because you can forget about this stuff. I mean, people look at things like this happening and they go, it's an epiphany. It's this transformation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not. It's just a lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how well you learn that lesson is how often do you remember and go back and review that lesson. And, when I realize every day that my feet are numb, I go, okay, yeah, that's my reset button right there.
Yeah.
Don't take
That's-
anything for granted. Yeah. It's like that movie Adaptation. Remember the main character with Chris Cooper that had no front teeth?
Yeah.
And he explained at the end
Yeah.
why he never gets his teeth fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he has to always have that constant reminder of what he went through.
What is the main lesson that you took away from this?
Well, you walk away from it, and it's really quite simple. It's don't sweat the small stuff, and really, most of it is small stuff.
Yeah.
And then you go back out, and you go back to life, and for a period of time, that lesson is just crystal clear. You are bulletproof.
Sure. Yeah.
And then you get a ticket. And then the kid locks themselves out of the house again. And, oh, God, the dog chewed up those shoes.
Yeah.
And, this patient's late and this thing's gone sideways here. And that kind of chips away at it.
Yeah.
But you got to, as I said, you kind of have to find that reset point where you go, okay, take a deep breath. Yeah. Okay.
Slap your
Yeah.
friend. Yeah.
Well, don't go sticking forks in any outlets or anything. All right, trying to get more
Yeah,
motivation.
Feeling a little lost. Well, we do have a little more time here. This is an amazing story. Dr. Bob Kilroy, also the first chiropractor that we've had on this show, and we are both chiropractees. Well,
Yeah.
We've had our shit cracked. All right,
A lot.
all right. We've we've had back injuries, and we've got questions. We're fascinated, both of us, by the world of chiropractic.
Oh, thank you. It's been a fun profession. It's
How'd you get into it?
Was
it something that was it what you wanted to do from the jump, or?
I had graduated as a geologist.
Oh wow!
Whoa.
And realized that to get anywhere in geology, I was going to have to go back and spend another 4 to 6 years and get my PhD and this and that and everything else. And I went, well, I really have always loved healthcare. And my girlfriend at the time will say, well, have you looked into chiropractic? And I hadn't. So I checked in with a couple chiropractors and did a little bit of reading. I went, well, this sounds pretty cool. This sounds pretty cool. Then did that, went to chiropractic schools, kept my job at the summers at the beach, and came out and I've been in practice now for about 32 years.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Are you originally from LA?
No, originally from New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Which is another thing. People from New Jersey go, how the hell do you get struck by lightning? You've worked at swimming pools all your life. The first thing you do when you see the big black cloud is you blow your little whistle and you say, everybody out of the water.
Yeah.
And I go, I never saw it coming.
Yep.
Never
Seriously though, that's seriously what happened that day, dude. It was seriously like you never would have thought that it was.
There was just the one cloud and the
it didn't
one
seem
lightning
like it was
bolt.
gonna rain, even, man.
Yeah.
Just a marine layer. I'm always fascinated by my chiropractor, and I was telling, we were talking about it before the show, but the chiropractor that I had been going to, I haven't been to him in a while. I do need an adjustment. Actually, we should probably talk after we leave here.
Seriously.
But when I first met him, and if you haven't been to a chiropractor and you're having any kind of back pain, you should go check it out, because I swear by the guy that adjusts
It's
me,
awesome, but yeah, dude, it's weird.
it's an experience, especially the first time you go, because it does seem like they're trying to murder you, like
That's the guy who's breaking your
Jean-Claude
neck,
Van
bro.
Damme would, in Bloodsport.
Yeah.
Um,
You're losing at the end of your last fight in your life. That's how it feels.
And I remember him getting. He was gonna adjust my neck, and he gets me in. He's telling me to relax, and I'm like, all right. And I just met this guy, 10 minutes before, and he goes, all right, do you trust me? And I looked at him like, I literally just met you, man. And then he cracked it.
Yeah,
but I'll tell you, man, when
That's
you're
what Indiana
off,
Jones says, and then it goes sideways right away.
Yeah, exactly. When you're off, when you're misaligned, man, and your muscles are trying to pull things back into place, and you're just not, everything's off. Or with me, it's my hips. My hips will get off, and it throws everything off, and my whole back will start seizing up, and I know automatically I need to go get adjusted. But when you have that, and it's something that a chiropractor feels he can't adjust, and they do it right, oh my God, man.
Oh yeah.
It can be very powerful.
It is so nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the end all. It's not the cure all for everything that can ail the body, but the things that chiropractic can fix, it can fix better than a lot of other therapies that are out there.
How long did this incident take you out of practice?
Took me out of practice for a good 3 months, I think.
Oh wow!
And one of the things that really was the hardest thing to get over was the chest pain.
Oh really?
From 12 minutes of
CPR.
Yeah.
two guys
Sure.
just flailing on your chest.
Do you have some broken ribs?
You mean like pleuritic, kind of like
No,
the muscles
they
hurt
did.
forever, or?
When they did the chest X-rays, they didn't say wow. I mean, they said wow, surprised you. you didn't break any ribs.
Yeah,
But
that is surprising.
the guys that were doing the CPR, I was actually just talking with one of them a week ago, and he's like, your ribs were like making all kinds of noise. And like, we're taught, it's like, is it making noise? Is it snapping? Is it cracking?
I mean, it's how you know.
Okay, well, guess what? You can't stop.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And really, that's how you know you're doing good, effective, deep CPR.
Yeah.
So,
You don't know until you're actually doing like, oh shit, this is kind of hard.
In all honesty, man, like I can count on one hand the amount of times I've done CPR and not broken ribs. And that's over a 20-year career. Like every time you do it, you break ribs. So to not have it done, and that was good CPR. I mean, if you go and watch the video, those are good deep compressions. I mean, it's good CPR. It's amazing that you didn't break any ribs.
The cardiologist that was at the head said that he goes, these guys were really, really on their game when they were doing CPR.
Yeah.
And, every year we do a lifeguard recheck, and there's first aid, and there's all kinds of procedural things we do about this, that, and the other. But every single time it's CPR, 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 CPR. If there's one thing that we are, good at, it's CPR.
Yeah. LA County lifeguards have high standards, and it's a serious gig.
Oh,
I mean, there's no other lifeguards that had a 10-season TV show. Or longer. And there were spin-offs.
And that was actually written by a lifeguard.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Was it really?
Yeah.
And
when he mentioned his idea for the show, I'm like, things can be pretty boring down here, Greg. Who said we have to make it boring? And like you just said, with your 911 and all your shows, we have a whole team of writers that can make all kinds of exciting things happen.
Exactly.
They had Baywatch nights, dude. Remember?
Oh,
it was like more. The real Baywatch, though, on Catalina Island, we work with them all the time at MAC. And they've got to be trained for scuba emergencies all the time.
Yes.
They recognize that stuff right and left, and they're usually the first people to arrive. They get there, before the paramedics. And
when you're dealing with scuba, you got some crazy stuff, I guess, that can happen.
Yeah, and it can be anything. It can present as anything.
Should give a shout out to the guys over on Venice Beach over there, man. The lifeguards over there. We obviously I work with them all the time.
My brethren.
Closely with them.
Yep.
And a lot of those guys over there. I talk to Tito all the time. They do a fantastic job, man. And we have not only the beach, but we also have the skate park there in Venice.
Yeah.
And so the majority of our serious calls that we get at the beach are at the skate park. Traumas, guys that fall, without a helmet on, crack their head, or, fractures, compound fractures, all kinds of stuff. And those guys are always, not only do they know their stuff, do they know how to, do the BLS stuff well, but they're all such cool dudes, man. You know what I mean? Like they're all like really, really cool. And even like the people in Venice Beach can be difficult to deal with sometimes. The unhoused and the more, the drug users and stuff like that can be difficult. These guys are always like cool to everybody. You know what I mean? And I guess it's probably just that beach, like laid back beach surfer mentality.
Well, it's also nice when you have the job. It's kind of like being a fireman. Who doesn't like the fireman?
Exactly, man.
It's like there's the lifeguard. Who doesn't like the lifeguard?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like it's not like you're a police officer where immediately people go to that nervous place. It's like no.
Yeah. Yeah, they're happy to see you.
So that touches on another thing here. Bob is also a lifeguard and also knew the guys that worked on you, right?
Yes.
Man,
and they did
amazing.
not know it was me until when they went to transport me. They said, "And what's your dad's name?" She goes, "Bob Kilroy." They go, "I know a Bob Kilroy." Yeah, that's because
that's him.
That's him. And then at that point, Newman and Ben Gottlieb both were like, "This just got a little bit stranger."
Yeah,
man.
Yeah. There is something when you're working on somebody, and there's this third person, there's this separation of you don't know who they are, but now you suddenly, when it is somebody
man. Definitely if it's someone it definitely makes raises the price of everything.
Well, as I always say, never treat family.
Yeah. I've had that too. I've realized after, and it was like a super popular like Mark Twain Venice High teacher.
Oh, really?
And I realized like this guy's familiar. And then when I saw the name, I was like, oh crap.
I had we have an uncle that was kind of like the uncle that had issues all throughout his life and stuff like that. I hadn't seen him in years, and run a call, and there's my uncle, trauma on the sidewalk, drunk, falling over, bonked his head. Yeah, I think I texted you on the way to the hospital.
but I don't.
But
yeah.
We're there.
Yeah, you did. That's right.
We're
right,
there
right.
and picking him up and we're there with an engine company, so rescue engine company, and about halfway through, I realized it's my uncle. I pull his ID out, and he's got like a out of state ID, and one of the guys on the engine had the same name as him. I don't want to say his name, but it had the same name as him. So I'm looking at my uncle saying his name, and the guys thought that I was joking, ragging on the guy, the firefighter. So they're laughing. And like he's like, yeah, that's you. And I go, no, dude, this is my uncle, blah blah blah, And he's like, oh shit, and we got him up and stuff like that. But yeah, just like you said, I worked on him for I don't know 5 minutes or so on getting an IV and all this stuff.
Yeah, and didn't even
realize that it was him.
Wow.
So you do get that kind of tunnel vision. But look. I mean, I'll probably never meet another person in the rest of my life that's been struck by lightning. The fact that, and we've talked about it in the past on this show about how calls can go really bad or really good, and circumstance a lot of times can just dictate that, and the people that are around you and their knowledge base, what they can and can't do.
Well, see, you have filled in for me today. This is one of the gifts that I walk away with today.
I wasn't really expecting.
I
guess it makes sense. You were unconscious the whole time.
I know what happened in the hospital, but there's that whole ride from the beach
to
UCLA that I'm going, what was going on? What was happening back there? I didn't think that it could possibly be just a simple drive to UCLA and to know what you did and how you did it, and the level of skill is impressive.
Oh, I appreciate that,
really
man.
appreciated.
I appreciate that.
And I get lucky enough to witness the whole thing. I feel like Dr. Phil over here. You know what I'm saying? This is amazing. This is my favorite episode.
Yeah, and actually on the way to the hospital, because there's from where we are in Venice, the closest our trauma center is UCLA. Now, the south end of Venice to Westwood on a Sunday afternoon, that's a tough drive, man. There's no easy way to get there without traffic. And typically when I'm driving, I know to take the streets over to UCLA, and I got my little route backdoor streets that I take to get there to avoid traffic. Well, we're both in the back with you, and it was a fireman that jumped up front to drive us. He goes up Lincoln to the 10, gets on the 10 freeway, dead stop. So I'm back here trying to get this tube in. My partner's doing all this stuff, and we are stopped on the freeway. And we were trying to maneuver to actually turn around and come down a on-ramp. That's how bad the traffic was.
Oh, my.
When somebody got out of the way, and it just created this little domino effect where this lane opened up and we were able to take off like right at that moment. So when I talk about things like falling into place, man, like and a whole separate episode, I've been on this whole is our whole life planned out type trip, in my own head lately. So and just being open to accepting signs from the universe, to help guide me through my life and stuff like that. And when I talk to you about this incident, that's like all I see here is like the circumstance and the universe just kind of falling into place, and everything falling into place with the right people, a freaking cardiologist at your head, your buddies that practice, and if they do anything well, it's CPR, right? You having the wetsuit on, your daughter waking up and being on the surfboard, not getting zapped to the point where she's unconscious and not waking up to be able to even get you to begin with.
Yeah.
The fact that I was dispatched and I had the balls to do that, in the back of the ambulance, the fact that car moved out of the way and the lane open, all those things to me, man.
Yeah, all
is-
come
It's
together.
freaking magical to me.
Yeah.
And when
Because
I
you
see
can look at the tragedy. You can look at, oh my God, there he was. He's dead. He was on the beach. He's this, that. And I mean, I look at that and I go, yeah. But what's really is the miracle is everything that fell into place to keep that from really being a tragedy.
well,
Yeah.
Bob, look at the one poor sap that died.
Yeah.
You know, you talk about everything going right. What could have gone more wrong for that guy? You know what I mean?
know.
So it's just like to me, and I see it in that too. Like it almost makes me feel like, God, man, whatever's meant to be is meant to be. And when the universe gives me a sign, if I'm going and doing something that I think is questionable and I hit a red light, my brain always goes, I ain't doing that shit.
Pay
You know,
attention.
let me go do something else. Like
Yeah.
that's
And you never know what it's going to come down to, though, because like you're saying, the volleyball guy, all he had to do was dust his own feet
Yes,
off on
man.
the sand, and he's alive.
Yeah.
You never know.
Or if everybody wasn't out there and it was just a group playing volleyball and the lightning strikes and everyone's like, where the fuck's Dave?
Yeah.
Right? Everything fell into place for him to be unnoticed. You know what I mean? And you know, I don't know, man. I don't know what to do with that, but I see that.
And in my own mind, when people have said, well, you know, how does it feel that, you know, you actually survived this and this young man did? And I go, oh, don't even go there, because I've had some really evil nights
sure, man.
and some really evil
Sure, that
moments in
survivor
my
guilt.
head going, you know, listen, you're sick, you're 50, whatever, and this and that, and this is some kid, and just really, why not just have taken me and saved the kid?
Sure, yeah.
And it's not your choice, but boy, if you you go down that road.
Oh,
it's-
yeah.
Oh yeah, man. I can imagine. I can only imagine. But you know what? The universe wanted you here, man, and who knows what for.
To do this podcast.
Here we
I don't
are.
think so.
But I always tell my boys, you know, and I just said this to somebody yesterday. I read it somewhere. You know, all we have is right now. That's it. The past is gone. There's nothing we can do about it. You know, obviously we can't see in the future. If you do right now the best you can at every moment, your beautiful future will blossom for you. And your past is just your future. You know what I mean? So I mean, I thank God. I have thank God for you, man, that you survived this. You know, I've and I don't pray. I'm not religious or anything, but I have. I feel like I have a personal connection to some kind of power that I think when things happen that are good and
Talk to
this
somebody.
this is one of those instances where I sat. We got back to the station. I sat down, and then when we heard later that you had survived and were doing well, I was just, and I looked at the whole situation, the scenario, and everything that fell into place, and I went, "Fuck, man, thank you. That was awesome," you know. And so, I'm just happy you're here, man. I'm happy that we were able to do this. That we're able to sit here and talk now. Wish your daughter could have been here with us to talk a little bit. But I think it's a blessing that you're here, man.
I agree. Thank you.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I
I have
got.
one more question for Dr. Kilroy. Have you ever had a male patient named Roy who had like second thoughts?
No,
Came to the
thank
office
you.
said, I don't know, Dr. Kilroy.
Yes,
Something
I
about
realized
this.
there were some pitfalls with that name going into healthcare, but thank goodness they haven't.
I like that you
Although
went
I
through.
did when I started off as an intern, I had a octogenarian patient who came in and she would not call me anything but Dr. Kildare. And it just got to the point where
That's your name
when
now.
the front desk would page me, they would just page Dr. Kildare.
That's hilarious.
That's great.
Do you have a website, or do you want to
No.
promote your practice or
No,
anything
I'm
like that?
doing-
No,
I'm
Doing
kind
your
of
thing private.
I'm just on cruise control right
All right.
now.
All right.
Sounds good,
Thank
man.
you,
It's like
though,
the beginning
very
of the A
much.
team. If you have back problems, maybe you'll find them.
All right. Well, I'm. You guys can find me at Danny Gonzo 34 on Instagram and Twitter.
Follow me at Ben9Humor, Ben number 9 Humor, like Ben9 Humor on what is it? Instagram? Instagrams?
Yeah.
I was gonna say clever handle.
Yeah. No, it's
I'm acting
Instagram.
like I'm on stage.
Yeah.
Face? Are we on face?
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Listen, follow
Cut the
PRC
tape.
Podcast on
Jesus
TikTok.
Christ.
You can find us on YouTube too. Hey, the t-shirts. I did want to mention this, guys. If you have tried to look for a t-shirt, your phone's right by the there you go. Hey, there it is, a t-shirt.
Oh, he's going for his t-shirt.
Bob's got the t-shirt.
Thank you.
So the Centigrade t-shirts, guys, listen, the Venice shirts, if you guys were looking to buy one, I got a cease and desist order from the Venice Chamber of Commerce.
Which is right next to your station,
Yes,
isn't it?
I got a cease and desist order
They
from the
walked
Venice
over and handed it to
from the
you.
Venice Chamber of Commerce because the Venice Chamber of Commerce owns 4 trademarks on the Venice sign, and you cannot sell anything with the image of the Venice sign without having
I'd
a
blow the
licensing
place
agreement.
up.
Okay, so we took everything down off the website, and I'm clearing that up, the licensing agreement up with the Venice Chamber of Commerce. And so hopefully, because we have this other project going on also, hopefully over the next month, I will get everything back up and we'll have the t-shirts and Centigrade t-shirts.
Yeah, come on, be cool, eh?
Yeah.
All right. Hey guys, thanks for listening. Hey, I didn't mention it earlier, but please, if you made it all the way to the end of the podcast here, like, subscribe. All that stuff helps us with placement on hot podcast lists and all that stuff.
Please.
Thank you so much for listening, guys. We'll see you next week.
All right.
All right.
Yeah. Hey. All right. Hey. Yeah, I mean.
So we about to take off.
Hey. Please do remain calm. About to run against it and with a little bit of soul, no times.